First, and pursuant to the Chapter 20 Acts of 2021 on June 16th, 2021, former Governor Charles Baker signed into law an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. This act includes an extension until March 31st, 2023 of the remote meeting provisions of his March 12th, 2020 executive order. Thus, the January 31st, 2023 Select Board meeting will be conducted via remote participation from the board. And I hereby grant permission to Westwood Media Center to record the meeting, and I will ask to see if there is anyone wishing to record the meeting in addition to Westwood Media Center. Seeing none, I'm going to jump right into the chair's update. Just a couple things here. First is the Community Choice Electricity, the CCE program. The town of Westwood is launching the Westwood Community Choice Electricity Program, which is an electricity aggregation program. We'll be launching that in March of 23. The program is designed to provide new competitively priced electricity supply options with more renewable energy options for residents and businesses here in town. This program was adopted or approved by town meeting in May of 2019. Members of the Westwood Environmental Action Committee and representatives of Good Energy, the town's consultant, held a forum on January 26th at the Senior Center, and they will be hosting another forum on February 2nd, coming up at 7 p.m. At the Westwood Main Library Community Room. The January 26th Community Forum was filmed by Westwood Media Center, and the video can be viewed on the town website or the WMC website. Many residents were in attendance, and there were many great questions asked. To learn more about the CCE program, we encourage you to watch the January 26th Community Forum video or attend the upcoming February 2nd meeting at the main library. And that really is the end of the chair's update tonight. We will jump right into scheduled action. And we have a public hearing tonight regarding the Islington Restaurant Group that does business as Neroli at 282 Washington Street. They are applying for an entertainment license. And I believe we have Nora Loughnane and Mike DeSaro here. So, and I believe, Michael, you said you were going to recuse yourself from this, yes?
I am for this option, yes. So I will shut my camera off, and Tish, if you want to just let me know when I can come back, that would be great. Thank you.
Very good. Nora, I'll let you take it away and kick it off, and
sure. I don't see Mike DeSaro, but if he joins, you can let him in. I can describe to you his application though. So this is for the new Neroli Ristorante in Islington Center in the Steeple building, which is hoping to open probably sometime in March. The board issued them an alcohol license in 2021 and renewed it in December for 2022. And now they've decided they'd like to have an entertainment license as well. This would include live and non-live entertainment. So they're looking to have bands as play or individual singers play, as well as having TVs in the facility.
Okay. I heard you say opening in March. Was there no chance of getting them open before Valentine's Day?
Valentine's Day, I think that's what they're shooting for. So if Mike jumps on, we'll hear from him. I know he would very much like to be open for Valentine's Day, but I think due to some supply chain issues, the lateness of getting some of his furnishings and equipment will probably make that impossible. But if there's any way he can do it, I'm sure he will.
Well, if he does, if he doesn't get open, that'll just make for better comps next year, I guess. That's so. With that, Marianne, do you have any questions?
Well, you stole my question, Rob. When are they going to open? Obviously, very highly anticipated by all, including myself. I am mindful of the discussion we had last time they were before us about just monitoring noise for the neighbors, and the owners did promise to do that. But that said, the entertainment they've described sounds lovely. So I have no further comment or question.
All right. With that, I would entertain a motion, if you would, Marianne.
Sure. I move that the Select Board approve an entertainment license for the Islington Restaurant Group, LLC, DBA Neroli, located at 282 Washington Street, and for the electronic signature of the Select Board clerk to be affixed to the entertainment license.
And a roll call vote. Ms. LeBlanc Cummings.
Aye.
Well, I guess I have to second your motion first out of necessity.
That's
And
correct.
So I do so. And
Point of
now,
order, Mr. Chairman.
yes, sir.
The clerk has recused himself, but yet he's the licensing authority. Can we change the licensing authority to the chairman? And can you include that in your motion?
Certainly.
I accept that friendly amendment. Is that sufficient or do you want me
Yes.
to? Okay.
Okay, so I second that amended motion and call for a vote. Ms. LeBlanc Cummings,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you, and we look forward to Neroli Ristorante opening sometime soon.
As soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Very
Thanks,
good.
Laura.
Okay, next up, we have the solar phase 2 power purchase agreement. This is for the Westwood High School parking lot canopies. And so we will be reviewing and authorizing the town administrator and school superintendent to sign the PPA for the parking lot solar canopies at Westwood High School. Phase 2, just to remind people, includes Westwood High School parking lot solar canopies, the Thurston Middle School gym roof solar arrays, the Senior Center parking lot solar canopies, and the Westwood Police Station parking lot solar canopies. I believe there's a timeline that puts us, we had the school committee approve the installation of the canopies at Westwood High School back on September 8th. Then on October 4th, we authorized Amoresco to proceed with the development of potential implementation of the proposed solar arrays at the Senior Center parking lot area and the Westwood Police parking lot. And then tonight we will be reviewing the power purchase agreement for Westwood High School parking lot canopies being presented to us. Do we have anyone presenting here tonight? Is Tom Philbin in, or Chris, are you handling this?
No, Mr. Philbin's here.
All right.
All right, we essentially have that one power purchase agreement for the high school parking lot canopy project. This has been reviewed at great length by Lemma Batiste and Pat Ahern themselves. As you see, it's gone back and forth numerous times, and I think we have a good copy now. The basic power purchase agreements itself will be the same for all of the other projects as they come up, but the addendum, the attachments rather, will be specific to each one. So this is a good power purchase agreement. It's very similar to what we had before, and I would recommend that we go forward with it in the project itself.
Thank you, Tom. Questions from either of my colleagues?
I only have one, Rob, if you don't mind.
Sure
I
thing.
noticed I did read the agreement, believe it or not, and I'm a glutton for punishment. Page 11. That I'm just wondering if someone could tell me why the construction was from between 7 and 7 was taken out, and it just says as per local bylaws. Did we change our 7 to 7 rule that I'm not aware of?
No, I actually looked at that yesterday, Michael, and our bylaw, I think it's section 292 says it's 7 to 7 Monday through Saturday, and on Sunday, it's 12 to 7.
I see.
So-
Okay.
So that reflects the change.
Okay. Thank you.
And if something were to change between now and then, we'd want them to build within that as well.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you, Pat.
Mary Ann, any questions?
Yeah, just quickly, I see that the town is an additional insured on the policies, the insurance policies that the developer is purchasing. I'm just curious how vulnerable, and I'm all in favor of this project, as we've discussed before. I'm just curious how vulnerable these structures are to the elements and the like.
Well, you can point to the ones that have been in existence for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And the structures themselves, again, they're steel. And the panels and so forth should last 25 years. The inverters are usually changed in a 10-year cycle, and that's all part of the program. So it's a very rugged construction. I mean, they have them in several towns now for a long, long time. And you'll see them everywhere you go, and you're going to see more and more of them because they're becoming fairly popular.
That's great, Tom. Thank you.
Tom, I didn't have any questions regarding the PPA. I do have one that goes back to some of your earlier presentations, just on the topic more broadly in terms of the incentives that are out there and the importance of doing these things in a timely fashion. Where are we netting out in your mind in terms of some of the smart incentives?
In this particular case, I think we're in block 7, which is pretty good. We missed the early blocks. The Council on Aging, we applied for early, very early, because we had got the approvals for that quicker than we did the others. And that's actually in a block 5, and we'll have a more favorable. And the others are all going to be in block 9. Still economic, but not as good as they could have been.
Do you think once we have all of the various components of phase 2, you might be able to give us a sort of blended prediction based on the weighted average of what those blocks are and the various power that will be produced from each of those components of the phase?
Can I tell you off the top of my head? No, I could get that for you though. And
I wasn't expecting you off the top of your head, but it'd be good to know what sort of our blended rate looks like on that. That would be helpful.
There's also one thing that could improve it. The government gives you a 10% kicker if there's in the investment tax credit. So it goes from 30 to 40% if the content is domestic, 40% domestic content. Right now, our government has not yet defined, the IRS has not defined what they mean by 40% content. If it includes all the electronics, if it includes the steel and the labor component, then there's no problem. If they say just the panels, there aren't enough panels being produced in the United States to make that happen. So there is one little wrinkle that could improve the economics, but that's yet to be decided.
Okay. I suppose we'll look for an update from you once we have a decision there.
I would like, with all your permission as well, to be able to put out a press release when we sign the power purchase agreement, just to further publicize the phase 2 program as it's going forward. And assuming you people agree, I would go forward with that.
Certainly. I think, Chris, that probably flows through you.
Yes.
Okay. If there are no further questions, I would entertain a motion.
Get to that motion. That would help, wouldn't it? Okay. So I move for the select board to vote to authorize the town administrator to sign the power purchase agreement, the PPA, for solar parking lot canopies at Westwood High School, contingent upon the agreement meeting the satisfactory, contingent upon the agreement meeting the satisfactory needs of this town, of the town. God, having a tough time today.
I second that.
Okay, roll call vote. Ms. LeBlanc Cummings,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Tom, looking forward to seeing this really start to kick off and be able to start to really save the community some money going forward.
Yeah, one last question. Does the board have to authorize also Emily Parks to sign?
I don't believe it does. I think the school committee can authorize Ms. Parks to sign.
Okay. All right.
Does that need to happen for them at a future meeting, Mr. Council?
Well, they've already authorized the project to go forward, so I don't think this is a question. And Lemma has, as Pat knows, has done an extensive review of the power purchase agreement and is happy with it. So
I
don't
am.
think it's going to be a problem.
Okay. Very good. Tom, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for all your work.
Thanks.
All right.
Tom, it was a pleasure working with you and Lemma on this.
Thank you.
All right, moving now to the financial update as we head into the next phase of our budgeting cycle. Stephanie McManus is here to provide us with an update as we get ready to turn over a budget document to the FinCom.
I'm just going to share my screen. I have a quick presentation to do. Okay, so This is an update on the FY24 proposed budget. And just as a reminder, everyone, where we currently are, we have been presenting the FY24 budget materials over the last few months to the select board. This has included the capital budget, the municipal budget, as well as the overall operating budget. Tonight, I will just be giving an update on where each of these pieces of the budget stands, and then also highlighting a few changes that have been made specifically to the capital budget since it was last presented in early January. So currently, as I mentioned, that there are three pieces really to the budget. So the FY24 proposed municipal budget book, the hard copy of that is in the process of being distributed. That will be this week. This includes information specifically that was highlighted at the January 24th select board meeting. So that's the municipal part of the budget book. The FY24 proposed overall budget book will be finalized and distributed this week as well. This includes information presented at the January 9th as well as the January 24th select board meetings. Specifically, this includes information on both the operating and capital budgets, as well as revenue, reserves, debt, and taxes. So this document will be used, both of these documents will be used moving forward in the budget cycle from now until the end of March. We will be presenting the proposed overall budget to the FinCom on February 14th. And just one highlight, the budget is currently balanced. So I'm just going to move into a few changes that have been made recently to the capital budget. And just to highlight specifically, most of the changes were part of the base capital budget, but I want to note that the overall number has not changed. So the municipal capital improvements is currently still at the $1,355,500. Funded with free cash. Items within that article have been updated, and I'll go through that in more detail. The school base part of the capital budget is still the same at the $1,017,000. Sewer capital improvements. This is another item that has been updated. The estimate for the sewer vac truck, DPW recently reached out with an updated estimate and needed an increased request of $90,000. So the total for that item will now be $1,260,000. That is funded. It has its own funding source, sewer retained earnings. So that also won't affect the overall budget number at this time. And then the sewer capital borrowing has not changed. The other capital improvements article that's funded with ambulance receipts has not changed. The additional capital budget that's funded with meals and hotel tax is still at $1.1 million. And then the additional capital article projects that would require borrowing also have not been updated. And I'll just quickly, both to highlight the changes that have been made and as a reminder of just the overall budget articles that are on the warrant, I'll just go through those right now. So the highlighted changes specifically are DPW has had to switch out one item. They had to move up from the scheduled FY25 capital budget one of their vehicles. It's the first item on the screen, the 1-ton pickup truck with plow. It's truck number 3. They've had a lot of issues, so they decided that they were going to move that up and move one of their items back. It is not disappearing, it's just being switched out sort of, so moved back to the FY25 capital budget. The fire department also, which was great, they evaluated their ask for a fire alarm vehicle. It was sort of a bucket truck, and they reached out to DPW and decided that they could utilize their piece of equipment instead. So they took back that request, which freed up $35,000. They also evaluated their training equipment and props, which was originally $35,000, and they figured that they could reduce that back down to $15,000. So overall, that freed up $55,000 in the budget, and we reallocated that. $35,000 went to the building facility maintenance. As you can see here, it went from $100,000 to $135,000. A lot of that is, we were discussing with DPW, now that they have the American Legion on, they need additional funding for if any repairs come up for that new building that has come online. And then also police has evaluated, they also got some updated estimates for their vehicles. So that number went from $255,000 to $275,000. And as I said, the overall number has not changed at all. It's just those 3 items that have shifted within the base municipal capital article.
So, Stephanie, can I just add in something on
Yes,
that?
of course.
So just to remind the board and those who are watching, this process begins in August when we look at it, when our department heads are asked to put together their capital requests. And what we've always asked our department heads to do is to continue to monitor what's happening in the industry as we're moving this forward. So one of the things that did take place with DPW is that truck 3 from August through January had some significant issues where it was better for us to swap out that with the prior request, which was a stump grinder, move the stump grinder off a year, and then move up what, as Stephanie described, what was in fiscal year 25 up to fiscal year 24. We're fortunate it was the same dollar amount. And then some of the other things that we're seeing with some of the police vehicles, specifically the increase in cost, and then our facilities, just with some of the repairs that we've been making, we feel that this is an appropriate request. And thank the department heads for continuing to monitor what's happening out there with expenses.
Thank you, Chris, for that clarification. In the school capital article, I was just putting it in here as a reminder, but that has not changed since it was originally presented in early January. As you can see, the sewer capital improvements, the sewer vac truck, so the 4th item here was originally a $500,000 request. And as Chris just mentioned, DPW and fire and police in particular, they very much monitor updated quotes, and the director reached out and said that he was at a conference recently actually and spoke directly to one of the vendors who supplies these and said that it's going to be more like a 580, 590 request. So that total number has gone up, but as I said, has its own funding source of sewer retained earnings. The capital borrowing article for sewer, which is the I&I program, has remained the same at 500, and the 2 ambulance article requests have also not changed. The additional capital articles funded by meals and hotel tax is still at 1.1 million with the same 4 items we discussed earlier. And then projects that would require borrowing, the ladder truck and the cemetery expansion construction part of that project are still the same at 3.3 million. So that's just the update that I have for this evening. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions from either of my colleagues?
Well, Stephanie, I just had one thing that just jumped out at me when we were doing on page 4. How's that of your presentation? I'm looking at the last item, and I'm sure we're going to get questions about it. Since the police station is brand new, why do we need a flooring? Does anybody have any ideas for him? I'm sure Jimmy would know if you were here, but I don't know if anyone else has any information.
I
Sure
can
we're going to have that
certainly
with a
share
brand new
some
police
information.
station. Why do we need? Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
I can certainly share some. It's the Gillette meeting room flooring.
Okay.
It's a rug and it has significant wear and tear.
Okay.
Perfect.
Just because it said flooring, it said carpeting, I might have been able to pick it up. It says flooring. So.
Well, we're trying to find out what type of surface would be the best surface for that space as we move forward.
Okay.
It's a heavily used area and it's just showing a lot of wear and tear already.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other
Okay.
questions?
Mary Ann, you had none?
No, I don't.
Very good. Neither do I. I am good with where you are, Stephanie, and I just want to again recognize the work that you and your team have done to get us to this balanced budget position. I know it has been a great deal of work with your team as well as Lemma and Emily on the school side of things. So both Stephanie, Chris, and your entire team, just want to thank you for getting us to this point. And I think hats off to both of you, to all of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I have a great team behind me and it's been a process and I'm just excited that we're pretty much on time. So that's great. So, thank you.
Yep. And there are a few things that are still out there, right? You haven't heard anything yet on the group insurance and
Nope, that is hopefully going to be updated in March. And then the governor's state aid budget as well. I'm hoping in sometime in February. And I will along the way continue to present and update any information that comes in.
fantastic. Okay. Well, thank you both. All right. Now moving on to our discussion of town meeting articles. We have talked about these twice, and we have upcoming Finance and Warrant Commission meetings where those will be discussed as well. The first is the February 14th meeting at 7 p.m. via Zoom, where we will discuss the municipal and school budgets. We will then meet again on February 28th and possibly March 1st if needed, which will be the very first public hearing. That's at likely to be either 6 or 7 p.m. and then a March 14th and a March 28th meeting as we get into subcommittee reports and second public hearing. So, Chris, is there anything that has been updated with respect to the warrant articles?
There is, other than the update that Stephanie mentioned regarding the capital articles, we certainly wanted the board to have an opportunity to hear that, discuss that, but we can certainly, we will expand the language on these proposed warrant articles for the board to discuss and vote on at your next meeting.
Okay. I don't think there's any vote needing to be taken tonight since there is nothing to amend or accept. And I think it's probably premature to remove any articles. Would that be fair?
I would agree.
Excellent. Okay.
Rob, I just had a question.
Sure.
Chris, I'm guess they're planning to be virtual for these upcoming hearings? Do we know?
Tish, I thought, was the 14th virtual?
The February 14th meeting is virtual. I don't have an update on the public hearings if they'll be virtual yet, but we do know
Okay.
the February 14th meeting will be virtual.
I do see that our FinCom chair is in the attendee list here. I would imagine I know he prefers to meet live with all of the folks, and I would imagine that is probably the case with respect to the hearings, but depending on where things stand with probably illness and other things, I would leave that to him to make those decisions. Okay. All right, next up, we have some new business. Always a welcome new business item is to accept a grant, and I know we have Chief Deckers here to take us through what this grant is for and what amount.
Great. Well, thank you very much for entertaining me tonight here and letting me attend your meeting. I want to thank everyone for everything that you're doing to support the town. And basically, I think this is our third year now of getting this grant and funding availability for the Department of Fire Services Firefighter Safety Equipment Grant. So basically, that grant is a $5 million grant that every town and city and fire district in the Commonwealth can apply for. And the goal is basically to provide equipment to improve the safety of firefighters. So we look at that, we send out feelers throughout our organization of what we might need for equipment. And this year we made an application. We were awarded the amount of $15,258.99. And it basically is going to cover 3 new portable radios, 2 for the command staff, and 1 extra radio that we had to replace because all of our firefighters now get issued a personal radio so that we have communications with them at all times. And then also an incident command board. Those incident command boards are actually used during larger scale incidents, but they can be used at any incident. And it basically is a board that lays out who all the players are, where they are, what they're doing, the scope of the incident that's in front of us, the skills and items that we need to accomplish. And then we pull that all together, take a picture of it at the end to allow us to do some better report writing and such. So this is the 3rd year that we've been granted this, and I'm glad that you're going to accept this. We'll be back again. I think I have one more in the queue for you, and then I'm always looking for free money. So, we'll continue doing that and present in front of you again.
Well, we appreciate your ever searching for that free money, and this sounds like it would go to some very good use for you and the department. So with that, I would entertain any questions. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Well, I move for the select board to accept for the for the fiscal year 23 firefighter safety equipment grant of $15,258.99 as awarded to the Westwood Fire Department.
And I second that.
Okay, roll call vote. Ms. LeBlanc Cummings,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Chief, congratulations. Thank you very much for securing this funding and for all you and the team do.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Chief.
Chief.
All right, next up, we have a licensing agreement at 394 Providence Highway. This is for a piece of property, if I'm not mistaken, Pat, and I will let you take the lead on this.
Yeah, this is a piece of property that, and with us tonight is Michael Brown, who's an attorney for the applicant. Mr. Brown, nice to see you. This is a small triangle of land which they wish to use to enter their property. My understanding, they've kind of been, the current property's been using it for years without a licensing agreement. This formalizes it. And I suspect after a few years, we may be back in for an easement to give them a permanent access across it.
And if I'm not mistaken, this is right off of Route 1 at well, what's the road where Westwood Media Center is? I should know that. Anyway,
Walker Street.
Walper Street, yes.
Yeah.
And so that actually probably increases the safety of entering and exiting the facility. Is that right?
That's the thought process.
Very good. Any questions from my colleagues?
No.
All right, seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
So I move that the select board authorize the town administrator Christopher Coleman to sign the license agreement for 394 Providence Highway.
I second that.
Okay, roll call vote. Ms. LeBlanc Cummings,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Appreciate you being here with us tonight, and we thank you for bringing your business to Westwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, board members.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have approval of our January 24th meeting minutes. And I had no changes on the revision that you sent around earlier, Tish. Don't know if either of my colleagues had any further revisions.
I do not.
I do not as well.
Would entertain a motion.
So I move approval of the regular meeting minutes from July 24th, 2023 as amended.
I second that.
Okay, roll call vote. Ms. LeBlanc Cummings,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Walsh, I think you said July 24th, 2023.
Well, let
I
me say
think-
January 24th, then, because
Okay.
July's already long been written
Thank
by
you. My
by Miss
mistake.
Haley, that we know.
My mistake.
She's gonna have these meeting minutes out by tomorrow, but anyway.
Fair enough.
So the January 24th,
I
2023.
understand.
As amended.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. That concludes the regular business for this session. We will be going into executive session to discuss one issue pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property for the evaluation of a lot described as Assessor's Map 33, Lot 060, the discussion of which would have a detrimental effect on the town's negotiating position. We will not be returning to open session. Our next meeting is Monday, February 13th at 6 p.m. right here via Zoom. So with that, we will be going into, or I would take a motion to go into executive session.
So move for the aforementioned reasons.
And seconded.
Okay, roll call vote. Ms. LeBlanc Cummings,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you on February 13th.
Thank you.
Good night.